Welcome to the Proceedings Podcast. I'm Bill Hamblet, the editor-in-chief of Proceedings here at the U.S. Naval Institute. Today is Wednesday, the 13th of November. Good as always to have you on board, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by Booz Allen. Accelerate today's missions with tomorrow's technologies as the leader in providing AI solutions to the federal government and one of the world's largest cybersecurity providers. Booz Allen advances game-changing capabilities rapidly, ethically, and securely. Learn more at boozallen.com/defense. My guest today, joining us from San Clemente, California, is Major Dilan Swift, U.S. Marine Corps. He's the winner of this year's Naval Institute Marine Corps essay contest. Major Swift, welcome to the show.
Morning. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So just tell our listeners a bit about yourself, starting with your MOS and your current position.
Absolutely. Yep, I'm a 0302 infantry officer. I'm currently the operations officer for 4th Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion, which is a reserve LAR battalion here aboard Camp Pendleton. I did about 10 years active duty. I commissioned through ROTC out of UCLA, right up the road here. Went to TBS, the infantry officers course shortly thereafter. And then my first unit was out in Hawaii. I was in 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, did 2 deployments out there, transitioned from there over to the Marine Security Guard program over in North and West Africa, working with the State Department for a few years. And then went to a 1-year school, Quantico, Virginia, Expeditionary Warfare School. And then shortly thereafter went to 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines in Camp Pendleton, where I served as the Assistant Operations Officer and the Weapons Company Commander. After 10 years active duty, decided to transition to the reserve world, and I've been here for about 3 to 4 years. Most of my time has been with 4th LAR, and in my civilian career, I've been working for a tech startup that does basically defensive cyber operations for small businesses, using AI and ML to do that really efficiently and effectively.
Nice.
So, yep, that's quick in a nutshell.
Nice. And you're a surfer, as we can tell by the surfboard hanging behind you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, right behind me. Yep, it's the best
Awesome.
world here in San Clemente. So,
all right, fantastic. So congrats on winning the essay contest. The title of your essay is Mad Max Imperatives for the Stand-in Force. It's in the November issue of Proceedings. It starts on pages 20 and 21 in the print issue for our listeners who've got the print issue. So here's the Marine Corps issue, our November issue. Happy birthday, Marines. Or you can find it on our website by searching on the title Mad Max Imperatives. It'll pop right up. So let's start at the 30,000-foot level with your article. So some of our listeners may not have seen a Mad Max movie yet. First one came out, I think, in 1985. They're sort of post-apocalyptic war adventures set in the Australian deserts. Mel Gibson, Tina Turner, and my favorite Charlize Theron have all starred in a Mad Max adventure at one time or another. They're great movies to watch on deployment. How do they relate to today's Marine Corps and the stand-in forces?
Absolutely. Yeah, great series. I remember watching them on bus rides going up to Bridgeport, California with my young Marines. And obviously the new one just came out recently, which got me thinking. All the Mad Max franchise takes place post-apocalyptic Australia, after some sort of nuclear event, has really devolved human civilization, back to more rudimentary time. And that's what's exciting about it. It's how do people survive and thrive in an environment where they've taken a step back technologically, where they don't have the ability to use modern tools, and in fact, everyone is fighting over modern tools because they can't be produced anymore. So ingenuity comes into play, creativeness, innovation, and they're in an extremely austere environment, which is, in the Mad Max movies, obviously in a desert environment where there's little food, little water, etc. So everyone's fighting over resources, and they're trying to creatively use this, simple and effective technology to have an advantage over their foes. In the most recent movie, that was exactly it, as it really is a trend in all, is surviving in austere locations and surviving in combat as well against each other. Looking at that, really pick my mind as we sit in this more digitized world, and we continue to push forward with, our expeditionary advanced space and stand-in force concepts.
Cool. So your article describes some of the pitfalls of technological overreach, and so, you know, no Z traffic to any of our listeners, but for the past 50 years at least, a cornerstone of U.S. military capability has been to beat the adversary with better technology. In Desert Storm, for example, a notable example was the F-117 stealth fighter. Iraqi air defenses just couldn't touch it. And today, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force are all fielding fifth-gen fighters, the F-35, et cetera. So what's wrong, or what are some of the pitfalls of a high-tech force?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a key part of this is, right, we create, as we develop technological solutions to our problems, we create, biases and over-reliance and over-dependence, especially when it comes at the expense of, a skill or a previous technology that was sufficient for the job. So by no means do I think we should not develop new technology. But my point here is that we need to be wary as we continue forward in technological development. War is about friction. It's about uncertainty. It's about disorder. It's about creating destruction. And in that, accepting that reality, highly tuned, highly machined and digitized tools are going to become increasingly fragile and susceptible to friction, susceptible to the challenges that are obviously present in warfighting. In the article, I talk specifically about the JLTV, which is kind of notorious. That's the Joint Light Technical Vehicle that's being fielded in the Marine Corps and across the Army. It's basically a computer on wheels that is, the maintenance requirements are so advanced that our Marines can't even do some of the maintenance on it. We have to bring in contractors to do maintenance because of how complicated it is. And as you look at a piece of technology like that, and then you juxtapose it with where we think we need to use that piece of technology, it's kind of incongruous a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We want to be operating in the jungles or the austere deserts or the mountains far away from a logistics train within the whiz of enemy weapon systems. But then I also have to maintain this highly advanced piece of technology. It just doesn't make sense necessarily.
Yeah, you're hitting on some themes that another Marine wrote about in the November issue. It was Chief Warrant Officer Brian Brewer. His article is titled "Aviation Maintenance: A Critical Vulnerability in the Marine Corps," and the same thing. He was spent his enlisted time as a wrench turner, as an aviation electronics technician, et cetera, in CH-53 Echoes, and now they've got the more advanced CH-53, which is glass cockpit, but also he mentions the F-35. All these, as the Marine Corps advances the technology in its aviation fleet. His point is directly to your point. It becomes a little more fragile. It becomes harder for the average Marine to fix it, particularly in austere locations, whether that's on a Navy ship, bobbing around inside the weapons engagement zone, or it's in an EAB type environment, right? These are themes that are coming up more and more, that the difficulty of operating in austere environments with high technology gear, it's tough, right? That's a challenging thing. So admiring the simple, sustainable, survivable gear of the Mad Max movies, you note an example is the Toyota Hilux as a possible better fit. Discuss that for a minute. What is the Toyota Hilux?
Yeah, absolutely. The Toyota Hilux is just there's a big fan base out there for the Hilux because it really fits those three principles that I kind of deduced or simplified in the article, right? It's a relatively simple piece of automotive technology. It works. It's sustainable, right? It can be fixed anywhere, and it's very survivable. There's actually an infamous if some of your audience watches an old show called Top Gear, which is there was a British and American version.
Yep.
There's an episode of they take it to Hilux and they say, how much damage can we do to this thing before it will stop working? So they throw it into a lake. They drop it off of a 3-story building. They hit it with a bulldozer. They, you know, they just come up with a bunch of ridiculous, things that they inflict on this
I got to
poor
check
stuff.
that out. We'll have to get video footage of that to
It's great.
put into
And
this
it still
episode.
works. Every time they're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, in the States, you don't see Hiluxes anywhere. Why? Well, because they are relatively simple, they don't meet a lot of our emissions, regulations that we have in the States. But when you go overseas, Philippines, all over North Africa, I saw them all the time when I was on Marine Security Guard duty. They're all over the developed world because they work.
Yeah.
And because you can fix them anywhere, and because anyone can fix them. And so I think there is a movement towards moving to technology like this, right? In the article, I mentioned that the Australian Defence Force is starting acquisitions of some vehicles on the Hilux chassis. The U.S. Army is looking at some lighter vehicles that can be moved in their rotary transport that are similar in nature as well. And when you think about Marines operating in austere locations, I'm envisioning a bunch of guys on a flatbed Toyota driving around, rather than, again, a JLTV that can break at a moment's notice and no one will really be able to know what to do. So I think the Hilux is just a good example of the kind of technology that we should lean towards, specifically for the Marine Corps itself, right? The Marine Corps needs to be this expeditionary force that is self-sustainable, operating from naval craft. Well, they need to be able to operate independently without that extensive maintenance and logistics trail that is needed for a lot of these high-tech pieces of equipment.
Yeah, with machines that have a mission capable rate of 98% or something, right? Very, very high MC rates. So in your article, you also write about the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. And what are some examples of technology traps that we've seen in that war, and maybe some examples where the Mad Max approach is working better?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I think there's a few little vignettes. Again, hit these in the article. But early in the war, the Ukrainians were having a significant issue on specifically their northern border with Russia, because they were using lightly armored, just civilian vehicles to move their border forces and their border guards around, and they were susceptible to ambushes and things like that. And they're taking tremendous casualties. So over time, they needed an armor protective vehicle that could survive, on the battlefield. And what did we flood over there was our M113s, a Vietnam era armored vehicle. It's extremely simple. We still use them at the National Training Center. The Army uses them for all their OP4 vehicles. These things, they break like any vehicle breaks, but they have worked for over 50 years and has become one of the most instrumental vehicles on the battlefield, just to keep people safe as they move around behind friendly lines. So we've seen examples like that. And then the constant battle of electronic warfare and small UAS is another example, right? You over-rely on precise navigation systems that our UAS systems need. And there's technology to make that, to nullify that, and as the battlefield develops and becomes more friction filled, these precise tools continue to, we regress to the mean of individuals with rifles, tank main gun rounds, trench warfare, and then everyone was surprised by that.
Yeah. Rifles and maps, right? An old-fashioned map that you fold up and put in your pocket. Yeah,
exactly. Everyone thought we were in the era of precision-guided munitions, which we are.
But
we're also seeing trench warfare with bayonets and hand grenades, and everyone is more surprised by that, actually. But I think the point of my article is we need to still be capable of doing those things and mentally trained to do those things, and have technology that enables us to do those things well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Toward the end of the article, you write, and I'll just quote here, a techno-realist appeal for first principles is not a Luddite's call for simpler days, but rather a way to guide the Marine Corps acquisitions and modernization in light of recent conflicts around the globe. So just take us home from there. What are some key attributes the Marine Corps needs in the new systems it acquires? And how do they contribute to the Marine Corps being able to fight in any climb and place?
Absolutely. I think what this points to is more of a paradigm in how we do our technological innovation, in that we ensure that the tech that we are obtaining fits the principles outlaid in the article. Right, it's simple to use. Marines of any shape, size, intellect, MOS can use them. They're survivable. Right, they aren't fragile in a cold or wet or hot environment. And that's obviously something we try to do, but we just need to continue to prioritize that. And that they're sustainable over time, right? They will continue to work, and they can be fixed, and they can be maintained easily without having to rely on third-party contractors or a very high-level echelon of maintenance. So it's more of just a paradigm that I think we should maintain, and be wary of any technology that replaces, an analog component. There's another example we see in the Marine Corps is with our indirect fire, with our mortar gunnery, for example, right? Old school method that's been done for really probably like hundreds of years is you have a chart, and you've got, a booklet, and you can calculate, your trajectory and your distance, and it's done manually on a piece of paper. We also now have a small computer that does the same exact thing very quickly. It's easy to use that computer, but the reality is that creates a fragility in that process. It requires power, it requires certain conditions, etc., that can be easily taken away. So there's also the cultural aspect of how do we do training, and how do we prioritize the analog solutions to these problems that we face. We shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Oh, we have a new piece of tech, let's stop doing all this old stuff that worked. We're finding that we still need to do the old stuff that worked quite well, and we still need to use the technology that has worked in the past. So that's really how I would frame it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm struck. You used the word fragile or fragility a couple of times, and if you think back to the Mad Max movies, certainly none of the characters and none of the vehicles that they're driving in those movies, which are really quite entertaining, right? None of them were fragile, and all of them were able to operate in this incredibly austere environment. As the Timex watch ads from when I was a kid,
Oh, yeah.
Takes a licking and keeps on ticking, is another way to put it, I guess. Yeah, so we're running a little short on time. Do you have any saved rounds, or have you received any feedback on the article yet?
Yeah, well, obviously the feedback from the Naval Institute and Proceedings, which I appreciate. Super honored to be here with you, sir, and to just get the word out there, and just to continue to write and hopefully get people excited to write, because there's nothing more exciting than putting your pen to paper, getting an idea out there, and having some people talk about it. But really, I think just to end this is exactly that, right? As we go forward, we're seeing this every day in what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in Lebanon and in Gaza. Is we just have to be wary as we go forward. It's exciting. New technology is exciting. We've got all these defense startups that are making waves and shockwaves. Anduril is a big one that's right up the street from here from me. But right, we always need to hedge that by the tried and true technology and tactics and procedures that we know work, because through experience and repetition. And that just comes down to leaders, recognizing that and carefully walking forward, which we need to do, obviously, but also, ensuring that we maintain our proficiency with the tools that we have and the way we've used them in the past. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much. And I just want to say to your audience, there's a catchphrase going around: dare to write. It's there's nothing better. And it really, I'd say, to end it all, is to just get your ideas on paper. It helps you think, and it helps you learn more than you'll ever know. So thank you, sir. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'll let you know this. Last week when the November issue came out, I got an email from a retired Marine colonel, and he was eager. He got the print issue of the magazine, and he was eager for me to send him the links to the 3 winners of the Marine Corps essay contest, plus 2 other Marine Corps essay or issues articles that were in the November issue. And there was one good piece by a Navy guy that he liked as well. So I sent them to him, and he said, "I'm going to send these to former Commandant General Krulak." And I said, "Oh, that's great." So I sent him the links, and then maybe a half hour or so later, General Krulak responded to me as well and said, "Thanks to the Naval Institute for running this contest and for publishing this content. There's great stuff here. Appreciate all of what you do." So if you ever wonder as a JO when you write, does anybody of importance actually read this? The answer is yes. A lot of people read it. So it's all good stuff. Well, we're about out of time. My guest today has been Marine Corps Major Dilan Swift. His article in the November issue of Proceedings is titled Mad Max Imperatives for the Stand-in Force. It won first prize, which, by the way, comes with a check for $5,000 in our Marine Corps essay contest of 2024. If you're watching or listening and think you might want to write for one of our essay contests, go to usni.org and click on Proceedings. And then under Proceedings, you can click on the Essay Contest tab. All our contests are there. All our contests are judged in the blind. The winners receive significant prize money, most of them $5,000 or $6,000 first prize, and they are published in Proceedings. So Major Swift, thanks again today for being on the show. Congrats on your essay, and we look forward to your next article for us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, this episode was brought to you by Booz Allen. Accelerate today's missions with tomorrow's technologies. As the leader in providing AI solutions to the federal government and one of the world's largest cybersecurity providers, Booz Allen advances game-changing capabilities rapidly, ethically, and securely. Learn more at boozallen.com/defense. Mark your calendars for 11 December. We'll be hosting our annual Defense Forum Washington at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. The topic this year is building and sustaining the naval force structure the nation needs. So we're going to focus on shipbuilding. We have a terrific lineup of speakers. You can find more information and register if you go to usni.org/events. And finally, if you're a member of the Naval Institute, thank you. If not yet, please join us and start receiving Proceedings magazines, member discounts, and newsletters. Just go to usni.org/join to become a member today. And until next episode, remember, victory begins at the Naval Institute.